Hi everyone. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk about this week's project, which is dealing with perspective. Now, I kind of talked about this in our very first video, but the idea of drawing a box in perspective is the idea of it slowly tapering off, slowly narrowing to a fine focal point. Now, in the world of art, we have what's known as 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, and even 4 point perspective. 4 point perspective is when you draw on, say, like a sphere, and things bend around that sphere like a beach ball, right, or a globe, right? It kind of bends like that. That's 4 point. We have 3 point, which is whenever you're looking up or down at a building. So say, for example, that you're on the ground floor and you're looking up a building, right? The windows up top would be really tiny, and the windows down here at the bottom would be much, much larger. And you're also seeing two sides of that building. So that's 3 point. 2 point is kind of what we've drawn in the past. Whenever you see the corner of a block or a building or anything like that, and it goes away from you, and it goes away from you. So you see two different sides, and the top, could be the bottom as well, just as easily. And they're going in two different directions, 2 point. And then 1 point is whenever you see just a flat face of the block, and that block goes away from you in space, just like so. So one direction, right? Because this side here is not going away from you, it's perfectly flat. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, this right here would be an entire semester's worth of information, but we're gonna totally not touch 4 because, woo, that's hard even for me. We're gonna ignore 3 entirely, and we're gonna focus only on 1 and 2, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and jump on in. So I'm gonna sum this up as quick and as simplistic as I can. If you guys do have questions, please contact me directly. This is a lot of information, and I'm crunching it down into a bite-sized dose. So whenever you're drawing anything in the world, there is a horizon line, just like if you're looking off at the ocean and you see, you know, the horizon, maybe the sun's there and it's a beautiful little scene. Okay, the horizon. But what they don't tell you is the horizon line is exactly aligned to where your eyeballs are. So we could call this the horizon or the eye line. We're going to call it the horizon. But this is where your eyeballs are, okay? That's going to be really, really important in a second. So if I have a block, right, or it could be a cylinder, doesn't matter what it is. If I have something and it is below my eye line, my horizon line, then I can see the top of it. If it's above my eye line, then I can see the bottom of it. But you can't see the top and the bottom at the exact same time unless you have X-ray vision or it's made of glass. So if I have a cube, just a plain, ordinary cube, maybe I see the front face of it, so I'm looking right square at it, okay? And maybe just because it's slightly off center, just a little bit, I see the right side of the box. So it goes back. I'm going to put a little point. Doesn't matter where you put it. I'm going to put a point on the horizon line. Now, you may want to use a ruler for this. I don't actually have a ruler, but I have a piece of scrap paper. So watch this. I'm just going to go ahead and fold my scrap paper. And now I have a ruler because we don't need the numbers. We just need a straight, hard edge. So I'm going to connect the dots. My focal point, that's what this is called, my focal point to the corner of my block. 1, 2, 3. If it's not perfect, don't worry about it. So 1, 2, and 3, tapering off into the horizon. So this is the world's longest block. Now we're going to cut it like a block of cheese. Straight up and down, go as far back as you want to, straight up and down. So 1, 2, 3. Now we can go 1, 2, 3, just like so. And we could erase all of that, and there's my block in 1 point perspective, because there's 1 point going away from me. This would be true if it was above me as well. Let's move it. We'll use the same focal point. Start with a square. Use my straight edge. 1, 2, 3. Straight up and down, straight up and down, straight up and down. Side to side, side to side, side to side. And look. Block above, block below. I can see the top. I can see the bottom. Okay? Now what happens if there's a block exactly on or near the horizon line? Well, okay, let's find out. There's my block, my flat front. Connect my dot. Connect my dot, and you know, I can't really connect my other sides because they'd be inside the block, so I can't see the top or the bottom. It's just a square tapering back into space, straight up and down, straight up and down. Let's cut it off right there, and there's my block. Okay, I know that sounds a little complicated, but again, when in doubt, here's a trick for you. You only have a couple options. I can go straight up and down, straight side to side, or back to the dot. Straight up and down, straight side to side, or back to the dot. Those are my only three options. That's it. So no matter what you draw, no matter where it is in space, right? It could be really far away, or it could be really close. Doesn't matter. You only have three options. If you follow this little cheat, you're gonna be absolutely perfect in 1-point perspective. Now, what happens if I'm not looking at the exact front of a cube, right? What happens if I'm slightly turning it, okay? Well, that we're gonna have to rely on 2-point perspective. So let's go ahead and check that out. Same thing as before, nice clean little horizon line, okay, just like so. Remember that horizon line is my eyeball line, so it's exactly where my eyes are. And if it's above my eyes, I'd see underneath of it. If it's below my eyes, I'd see the top of it, right? Just like so, okay? So if I'm looking at a cube and I'm gonna see both sides tapering back in space, I need to first decide where my focal points are. And really, you could put them wherever you want. The closer together they become, the more narrow your box becomes. The wider apart, the wider the box becomes. So think about kind of where those are. And you can adjust them, but they have to stay on the line, okay? Closer together, narrow, further apart, wide, okay? So I'm gonna place, we'll do a kind of off center here. I'm gonna place the corner of my block right there. Just completely arbitrary, doesn't really matter. So now I've got this little line segment, right? Let's connect our dots, A to B, A to B. All right, let's do it again. A to B, and A to B, just like so. Now I've got straight up and down. Let's drag that across, and let's cut it right there. Straight up and down, let's drag that across. It can go anywhere, it really doesn't matter. Let's cut it right there. So I know that nothing beyond here matters, nothing beyond there matters. Now, how do we show the top of the box? Well, this gets a little tricky. I have to switch swap. Okay, I got to crisscross. So let's see, this little guy right here, take him on back in space. This little guy right there, oops, take him back into space. And look at that. There we go, there's our big block in 2-point perspective. 1, 2, going back into space, 2 different directions. I see the corner, both sides, and the top. I could do this exact same thing above my horizon line, and I would see the bottom of my cube, and the same thing is true. If my cube is on the line itself, I'd see the edge first, it would taper back, and I wouldn't see the top or the bottom, and that would be my 2-point perspective cube exactly at the horizon, okay? So what do we do now if I want to mix and match? Okay, and this is going to kind of take everything we just learned and put it together. Feel free, obviously, to go back, rewind, pause, and practice. So let's see. Start with our horizon line first, always. I'm going to go ahead and put down 2 focal points. I want them wide apart because I want my boxes to be wide. And let's say I have a still life off on the side and I'm stacking my blocks, okay? So maybe I have 1 on the bottom, that's the edge of my block, and it goes back into space. Now, I'm going to do one thing slightly different, okay? I'm going to go ahead and draw this block as if it's made of glass. I want to see X-ray vision. I want to see straight through my block. So let's make this a little more cleaned up, okay? Let's do that. Connect my dots. It's gonna be really tempting to just freehand it. Please, just a scrap of paper. Use a straight edge. It looks much, much nicer. So maybe this is like a textbook, right? So let's say it's kind of lying on the table, so we'll say it stops here, straight up and down, straight up and down. And there's a trick with 2-point perspective. It can either go to this point, it can go to this point, or it can go straight up and down. Those are your only 3 options. That's it. So whenever you're choosing, if you're confused, say for example, if I draw a line like that, that is wrong. And I know it's wrong because where is it going? It's not going to the dot. It's not going to this dot, and it's not straight up and down. These are your only 3 options. Don't overthink it. You have 3 choices. That's it. So let's go ahead and finish this guy. So this crisscross here, this will make the top of our line, or top of our box. Okay, see it there? Make things a little easier, I'm going to take some eraser. Just going to clean this up. Sorry for the wobble on the camera there. Okay, hopefully you can see that a little bit nicer now. Now let's go in depth. What if I wanted to do like a glass box? So I'm going to go start with these corners here. Every single corner, because it's a 3-dimensional box, will have 3 angles. Back to the line, or back to the dot, back to the other dot, straight up and down. Back to the dot, straight up and down, back to the dot, right? They all have 3. Every corner has 3. Back to the dot, straight up and down. Which one am I missing? Back to the dot. Back to, or up and down, back to the dot. Which one am I missing? And back to the dot. And then just straight up and down. And there's my box, now in X-ray vision mode. Now I can see straight through it. This allows me, and I'll clean it up later, this allows me to very easily place another block on top because I can imagine this almost like a wireframe. So for example, what if I have another block, let's say, maybe right here, okay, and let's see, maybe it goes back right about here. Maybe it's tall and narrow. Tall. Now we're going above my eye line, so I won't see the top of it, right? If it's above my horizon line, clean that up. Clean that up, right? Do you see it? Now I've got another block on top, and then let's go crazy. Let's do, this is a 2-point perspective picture, but maybe there's a 1-point perspective box right on top, right here. So that's perfectly flat. And we'll say it's going away from me in space back to this 1 point, right, just like so. And let's just cut it off really small and narrow, right like that. So I've got 1 point, 2 points, 2 point, right? Let's clean this guy up real quick. This is pretty sketchy, of course. Again, sorry for the camera wobble. Clean this all up. And if I want to get crazy, I can start adding on some shadow and shading. Maybe my light source is coming from this direction, which means that this side is lighter and this side's darker. This side is lighter and this side's darker. And this side's lighter, and maybe this guy's casting a shadow. And this side's darker. And this side's kind of a medium. And maybe he's casting a shadow as well. Look at that. In seconds, I've got a stack of 3 blocks. I understand the perspective better, and I could add any other objects I wanted to this as long as they correspond to my focal points. Remember, you've got a trick with 2 points, only 3 option, and you have a trick with 1 point, only 3 options. If you follow these 2 cheats, you will end up with a nice stack of different objects, different cubes. And one last note, what happens if you want, for example, to add something like a cylinder, right? How do I do that? Well, really, really simply, let's check this one out. We'll go back to our little practice here. Let's see. Using these same 2 focal points, let's say that I've got a cylinder way down here in the corner, right? If that's the case, let's go ahead and start with a cube first. And just pull it back into space here. crisscross for the top, because this is a 2-point perspective cube. Look how it gets more narrow the closer it gets to this focal point. So there's my cube. Now, think about a square for a second. If I cut off the edges of a square, I get an octagon. And if I cut off the edges there, I get a, what is that, a dodecahedron? I don't remember. It's something, right? And if I keep cutting off edges and keep cutting off edges, I can get a circle. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 edges. Let's just turn that into a nice oval shape. Keep my up and down here. Round out the bottom. And now I've got myself a cylinder still in perspective. See that? You can do the same with any other shape. If you want to make a letter L, let's say, or a backwards letter L, right? I can do that very easily and take each corner back into space, right? Then I could get a 1-point perspective L, just like that, right? Or I could get a 2-point by taking these lines back into space as well. No, it's 2-point. Kind of bending it, right? So understand that you can really add and subtract using very basic things, but when in doubt, when you're stuck, you have a couple little cheats that can help you, and stick with cubes. You can round them out later. You can add them together later, because all this is, right? All this is 3 cubes glued together like a Tetris piece. Cool? Hopefully that helps you as you begin to continue to evolve, but remember, please reach out to me if you're stuck, confused, worried, anything like that. Post pictures on our discussion board, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys. Bye.